I'm going to offer you a bet, and I want you to notice your own gut reaction before I even finish explaining it. Flip a coin. Heads, you win $100. Tails, you lose $100. Most people, when offered that exact bet, say no, even though it's a perfectly fair 50-50 coin flip, even though the math is completely even. That single no is one of the most well-documented, most expensive quirks in the entire human brain. And it's quietly shaping nearly every financial decision you've ever made. We've covered the tomorrow tax, buy now, pay forever, the convenience premium, the comparison trap, the sunk cost trap. Every one of those traps involves your brain making a specific kind of mistake. This next one might be the root cause underneath almost all of them. Today, we're exposing loss aversion, the reason losing money hurts you almost twice as much as gaining the same amount feels good. Here's the number that should genuinely surprise you. Researchers have found that losses are felt psychologically at roughly 2 to 2.5 times the intensity of an equivalent gain. This is loss aversion, the tendency for the pain of losing something to feel far more intense than the pleasure of gaining the exact same thing. It's not that you dislike losing a little more than you like winning. It's that losing genuinely registers as a different, heavier category of emotion entirely. Losing $100 doesn't just cancel out the joy of gaining $100, it creates a net negative feeling, even though the math says you should be exactly even. And once you know that, a huge number of irrational financial decisions suddenly make perfect emotional sense. Here's what should genuinely change how you see your own past decisions. Loss aversion isn't a flaw in your reasoning. It's a completely separate system running underneath your reasoning. Nobel Prize-winning research by Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky, known as prospect theory, found that people don't evaluate outcomes based on their final wealth. They evaluate them based on gains and losses relative to a reference point, usually wherever they started. That reference point is doing enormous invisible work. The same $1,000 outcome can feel like a win or a loss, depending entirely on what number you were comparing it to a moment earlier. This is why an investment that's up 10% but was up 20% last week can feel like a loss, even though you're still ahead of where you started. Your brain isn't measuring against zero, it's measuring against your most recent reference point. And because losses hit roughly twice as hard as equivalent gains, your brain will often go to genuinely irrational lengths to avoid locking in a loss, even when avoiding it costs you more in the long run than simply accepting it would have. You're not being careful, you're being asymmetrically wired. Here's where this gets expensive. Loss aversion is one of the single biggest reasons individual investors underperform the market over time. It shows up as holding losing investments too long, hoping to get back to even before selling. The exact behavior we covered in the sunk cost trap. Except here, the fuel isn't ego, it's the raw asymmetry of how losses feel. It also shows up in the opposite direction, selling winning investments too early just to lock in the gain before it can turn into a loss, even when the underlying investment still has strong long-term prospects. Outside of investing, loss aversion explains why people avoid checking their bank balance during a bad month, why canceling a subscription feels harder than the subscription is actually worth, and why people stay in bad financial situations rather than risk a temporary, visible loss to get to a better long-term outcome. In almost every case, the fear of a loss is doing more damage than the loss itself ever would. The research behind this is some of the most replicated in all of behavioral economics, and the numbers are remarkably consistent across different studies and different countries. Kahneman and Tversky's original experiments found that people typically required a potential gain roughly twice the size of a potential loss before they'd accept a 50-50 bet. Meaning, most people wouldn't take our earlier coin flip unless the win was closer to $200 against that same $100 loss. This research eventually earned Kahneman the Nobel Memorial Prize in Economic Sciences, and it fundamentally changed how economists understand financial decision-making, moving the field away from the assumption that people evaluate money rationally toward a model that accounts for this built-in emotional asymmetry. Follow-up studies in real financial markets have found the same pattern in actual trading behavior. Investors sell winning stocks at meaningfully higher rates than losing stocks, a pattern researchers now call the disposition effect, and it traces directly back to loss aversion. This isn't a fringe theory. It's one of the most well-established findings in economics, and it's operating on you personally, right now, whether you've ever heard of it before today. The good news, once you can name this bias, you can build systems specifically designed to work around it. Here are 5 ways to do that. Number 1, automate investment decisions in advance. Automatic contributions and preset rebalancing rules make decisions before loss aversion has a chance to hijack them in the moment. Number 2, check your portfolio less often. Research on loss aversion shows that the more frequently you check an investment, the more short-term losses you're exposed to seeing, and each one stings, even if the long-term trend is solidly positive. Number 3, reframe the reference point deliberately. Instead of comparing today's value to last week's peak, compare it to your original investment, or better yet, to your long-term goal. The comparison point you choose changes how a loss feels almost entirely. Number 4, write your investment or spending rules down before emotion is involved. The same exit criteria approach from the sunk cost trap. Decide in advance what would make you sell, cancel, or change course so the decision isn't being made in the heat of a loss. Number 5, separate a paper loss from a real loss. An investment that's down but not sold hasn't actually lost you anything yet. Internalizing that distinction can meaningfully reduce the emotional intensity of short-term dips. Here's the strange comfort in understanding loss aversion. It means you were never actually bad at math. You were reacting to an ancient, asymmetric alarm system that treats losses as far more urgent than gains, whether or not that's actually true in your situation. Once you can see the asymmetry, you can start making decisions based on the actual numbers in front of you instead of the amplified emotional signal your brain is sending about them. Every trap on this channel so far has been about a specific mistake. This one is about the emotional engine that makes almost all of those mistakes feel justified in the moment. The goal was never to stop feeling losses more intensely. That switch doesn't turn off. The goal is simply to know it's there, so it stops making your decisions for you. If this explained a financial decision you've been quietly confused about for years, hit subscribe. We're building a real map of the psychology that keeps smart people broke, one trap at a time. Next time, we're taking a break from the psychology to cover something completely practical, one of the most widely recommended budgeting frameworks out there, and whether it actually holds up once you run your own numbers through it. Next time, we're breaking down the 50-30-20 rule.